What is going on, everyone? Good morning. This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing, and it is Thursday, the last day going into a long weekend here. We have Pascua Easter week, and we started this day off here with unemployment numbers, and they were through the roof, 6.6 million. Markets seem to like it. Markets are trading up on the news. Let's check this out together just in a little bit. Good morning, Gabe. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. We're going to get into Bitcoin. The story of the morning is the dollar as we're coming down now, testing this area of support. This is the breakout right here. Price is testing into it right now. Momentum is against the dollar here, but we still got a little bit of a stronghold before we flip on our bias on the dollar. We have about 30 minutes until the US markets open, the equity markets open. I think it's going to be a volatile day. There's going to be a lot of jockeying for position ahead of this 3-day weekend. Let's see what the market brings this morning. We have a lot to look at. Blair, Thomas, Jesse, Roman. What's going on, everyone? So far, the market is just really loving those unemployment numbers. Oil is a big story today. We're going to have to get into it. I say that a little bit sarcastically, but the market does like it. I've seen, by the way, just look at these headlines I saw today. Fed unleashes 2.3 trillion in lending programs. Canada, March employment, minus 1 million, 500,000 expected. US jobless claim, 6.6 million. EC members, all members agreed that further forceful policy was warranted. This seems like definitely news the market should be rallying on. Everything is looking groovy. Use sarcasm here. Things are not looking good at all. Nevertheless, the market seems to be decoupled from reality once again. Hey, listen, we did a video yesterday looking at whether or not we're going to have a V-shaped recovery or come down and retest the lows. I think not only are we going to come down and retest those lows, that we're going to take them out outside of some unforeseen events happening. This is oil. So oil is very volatile today. That's what traders were actually expecting. And this is something probably that you want to stay away from right now until you get a break of the range. Or we'll see what develops later. But it looks like oil is going to be trading lower. But let's see what type of resolution comes out of the meeting before even thinking of getting involved in that. Bitcoin had a pretty nice day. We posted this on Twitter last night. This little bit of a triangle pattern. Price has since broke down out of it, came down, and it is now again testing that broken resistance. Let's see if we get a reversal over here. I think that might be dependent on the US equity markets as well. But if we get a reversal down over here and get some follow through, might be a good place. I've moved down my buy entry to 6,750. But I have to be honest. We'll have to be honest. If we break above this trend line to the upside and equities continue to pump today, we could see a big move to the upside on Bitcoin after this false, what would then be a false breakdown. Too soon to know. It's developing. We'll keep watching. The DXY, Dinkar, Mara, good morning. The DXY is the big story right now, coming down into this area of support. Let's see what the market does with it. The next hour and a half of trading are going to be really telling of how they take this thing going into the long weekend. And right now it's anyone's game. Let's take a look across the board. I see market volatility is pretty much the same as yesterday. If you notice that pairs basically are, the volatility is down compared to the past few weeks, both so far today and yesterday. Going into this long weekend, though, let's see if it remains muted or we get some big moves. I'm really interested. The markets are just pumping. They're just pumping right now. All right. DXY is still under pressure. Trying to get a look around, trying to get a feel for what happens this morning. Let's take a look at some levels on the S&P. I have this trend line over here. Over here, this is a first indication of a breakdown. You could see what happened was we tested this. This was pre-unemployment numbers this morning. If I come down to a smaller time frame, you'll get a much better look. You could see that pre-unemployment numbers, we were testing a breakdown, and then boom, since the numbers came in, it's been off to the races. To the upside. By the way, Matt, I really appreciated that comment you left on the video of the V-shaped recovery last night, knowing that you appreciated it. I really enjoyed it as well. And I just want to say thank you. So I have over here, I have 2809 as some pretty big resistance, and then a big larger stand at 2878 up here at the top of this resistance over here, and then ultimately this trend line. This is where I am looking for the markets to make a reversal. Now, in the video yesterday, I talked about whether or not the difference between the bottom in the Dow back in 1929, there was about 5 months before the market topped and then roll over. Now, the speed in which this fell was a little bit faster. Well, it was much faster, right? So all in all, I guess it was about a rough estimation about 15 days faster. Also, back in 1987, here it was much faster and steeper fall. So is the rise up quicker, and then could the fall down be quicker? That's what I think. That's what I'm not looking for another 5 months. Although another 5 months would put us right into September, which is notorious for a bad time in the markets. So let's see. But you also have the old adage, right? For equity markets, sell in May and go away, right? So let's see what happens up in this area over here. If we get above it, I would have to say at that point, nothing makes sense. And then, hey, I guess you got to get bullish, right? DXY definitely under some pressure right now. Definitely under some strong pressure right now. Let's see what the euro is doing. I know that they are meeting over and trying to come to some type of agreement over in Europe today. And they were having problems looking for a headline. I don't see it right now. We're right now, though, as we come into losing that trend line in the DXY, we were just coming back up to test this resistance. I don't know about you. It's not something that I want to trade at this point to the upside. This area of resistance is pretty strong resistance. That's something that I would look to lean into short. We still have lower highs. I'm still a believer in the dollar. Oh, let's check out gold. Look at that. Gold has every reason to be pumping. Gold has every reason to be pumping. And when I say that, it's because of the amount of expansion of the monetary base, right? So what I want to do for my own benefit is, by the way, Anita crushed this entry. This is so beautiful that I wish that all of us were a part of it. And the fact that you got this beautiful trend line break into the resistance and then tested a support and now resuming upwards. The thing about gold here is I want to actually put together a video about whether or not it's a good time to buy gold, right? And in putting that together, I'll be able to work it out a lot better. There's one thing I do want to do say about that, though, is if you were to go back to, I was looking at when QE was initiated back in 2008, and that was in December of 2008. I think it was in March that gold started to break out. So here's a chart. This is important because we've just started QE again, right? So here is in September of 2008, right? When QE was started. Actually, that was the exact bottom of gold if you look at it. Well, when I say bottom, obviously bottom down during Lehman. But over here in is when they started QE. I think it's in March that it makes a higher high then. Comes up and tests the high. Did it make a higher high? Look, here's what I'm getting at though. This is the point that I want to make. Here's the high prior to QE. All right. Now, of course, this is when the bull run started, but why it's difficult to pick the bottom, the easier way, once price made a higher high, right? It was, call it 1,030. Once price took out 1,030, that's when it got really easy to be a part of that trade, right? There was nothing above here, no price in the way, and price really took off. So what happens if you do the same thing? What happens? Maybe just as they started QE, which was down here, right? Down here, maybe that was the bottom, just like back in 2008. But what happens if you wait for a breakout of 1900, right? Is that a safer place to buy gold? Is, I think it might be. It's something that I'm going to revisit. Same thing with Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin probably right now is in the beginning of this bull market phase, or ever since it bottomed on that dump, just like gold did there. But if you buy Bitcoin, again, we talked about 10,400 as being a really safe level to buy Bitcoin. But if you were to go ahead and also buy Bitcoin, as it broke out to new highs above 19,500, it's probably a pretty safe area to get long Bitcoin. The thing is about whether or not things look pretty bad in the economy. I don't know if we're going to see any more type of pressure on the markets. I don't know if this comes crumbling down and fast, and if that puts any more pressure on gold or not. These are some things that I need to work out that I'm interested in. Is it too late to buy gold? No, I don't think it's too late to buy gold at all. Thanks, Dinkar. Thanks for the thumbs down, everyone. Appreciate you taking your time to come in here this morning and share that love. Get on you. I don't think it's too late to buy gold at all. I'm not chasing gold right now, because if you were trading gold, right? If you were trading gold, the entry was, down off the support as price resumed up, not as it comes in and tests the resistance. So it's not even close to being too late to trade gold. Gold has not even entered really the heart of its bull market phase, which definitely started all the way down here on the breakout of this trend line. It started all the way down at 12,700. But gold's got a big move in her still. This is what you got to watch out for, though, right? And again, if you're not holding the physical stuff, don't be in a rush maybe to go ahead and pay some large premiums that are right now. Wait for things to settle down. But you got to own gold. Mima, good morning. Let's check in on the DXY. I want to see that's where the action is right now. It's really falling apart over here, it seems. Coming down into this trend line over here. US dollar, Japanese yen is actually unchanged on the day. And the euro, these are the two that make up the biggest, is definitely making some gains so far into this area of resistance, just 15 minutes into the US equity markets open. So it's a very active day ahead. A lot could happen. Thomas, any indication on why you said that it could just fly today? Is it because if it breaks out above if it breaks out above this 1678, this high from a couple of days ago, that maybe it's going to come up and test 1700. It's already flying up 1.8%. So you got equity markets pumping and gold pumping, Bitcoin lagging, but Bitcoin also is shaking off a move to the downside a lot sooner than I thought it would, or it was hoping that it would. um I am hoping it trades down further in order to go ahead and add more to my position. But hey, listen, in bull markets, things will just keep knocking off. As we're seeing it happen on the S&P, they'll keep knocking off bad news and climbing. But right now, this is coming into resistance. Cleared this trend line to the upside today, and at that point, I think that Bitcoin also might put in a big move to the upside. We have now about 13 minutes going in. Just laughing a little bit with the thumbs down. Do appreciate the love. Let's check in on the US dollar, Canadian dollar with oil in play today and see what she's up to. I know we were looking at right down there is the support. You're seeing that weak dollar in play so far in the session. And this remains within a range. It's getting close to breaking down or up right now as we're coming to the culmination of this pattern over here, this triangle pattern. So this could be in play quite soon. I'm not really up to date on what's going on with the OPEC meeting. I believe 1400 GMT is when they start the meeting. I don't know when news will be released. It seems like Saudi is not really cutting production too much, and they're willing to actually dig in here a little bit longer and keep these suppressed oil prices down. That's the game they're playing. Nice trade, 1402. Beautiful trade at the top of the resistance over there. Really, really, really good trading. The dollar definitely is weak today. That's for sure. That's clear, right? We're coming down now to an important level. So we'll see what happens from here. I think watching the euro, you get a bit of a clearer indication, right? It's either going to break out or be rejected over here. Big day. Big day ahead. So DXY. I'm going to zoom out just so you get a better look and a clear look. That trend line to me is important. All right, this trend line over here is my closest support. If that breaks, let's get a good look. Yep, this support line over here at 98.85, and then I would say that 98.85 is a big one, because if we lose this support level, then we're coming down and we're testing that recent low over here, right? And if that one moves, if we lose this one over here, at that point, I think that we're going to see some much further weakness in the dollar. So it looks like we're at a turning point, but right now you're still above this trend line over here. Below this trend line, if we get a breakdown today, then we have 98.85 to look at. And I really don't think that's such a big support. I would say that's light. This one down here, though, at 98.34, that's where we held up last time. That's obviously a bigger support. That's why the trend line is so important. Above it is bullish, below it is bearish. That's the trend line. That's the nearest support to look at, and I think the most important. If you take a look at that trend line, you could see, first of all, here's where it started, and here it was relevant again, right? You could see even over here it was holding up. Here it came into the resistance again. Here it broke down, came back up, held this resistance, broke through the resistance, and then it became in play again. So this trend line is pretty relevant, and there's a good chance that we bust through this morning. 10 minutes, the US equities opening, and US equities up 2% on the day. They just won't stop. Um, and I've noticed that they've been correlated pretty strongly over the past week or so, along with the equity markets. Along with the equity markets. So I'm waiting for the day. Something I have in my head. I'm waiting for the day when U.S. equity markets have a big down day, and gold and Bitcoin trade up on the day. That would be like a signal to me that this correlation is breaking or broken at that point, and that we could see some pretty big moves coming in both of those currencies. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you, Thomas. The whole thing about gold is that um, it has every reason to soar. It has every reason to soar. You know, little disappointed. I know that I tried to poke down here and pick up some silver, but things were tough down here. You have to remember what the whole psychology was as we were trading down in these levels, and when gold was falling off a cliff, right? The gold is breaking out to the upside now, Thomas. Look at that. Beautiful. Watch what happens here as the US equities open in 10 minutes. Got momentum there, though. Big momentum. Like that. Bitcoin lagging gold by far today. DXY, we need to keep, I'll keep it up over here, actually. I'll keep the DX. This is the level we need to watch this morning. Going into the long, there you go. It looks like Euro's breaking up here pretty strongly right now, very strongly right now. You think, all right, is it, I've DXY across the trend line. Seems to be right now to be mirroring all equity markets, right? So whether it's the US equities, whether it's the DAX, we seem to have this pretty clear pattern right there, right? Think, oh, that's all you need to watch, right? A break of this trend line to the downside, that would be the opportunity to get short on this pair. A breakout over here, and there's some room to the upside. So equity markets don't seem to be so rational to me. That doesn't really matter. Eventually, things are going to catch up. I did notice a couple of things. I did notice that the White House was saying that they're looking now. They're looking now to they're saying, what were they saying? 4 to 8 more weeks before they think the economy. Oh, Kudlow said that 4 to 8 more weeks before they think that the U.S. economy will be able to be opened back up. I see that they're pushing things back in Europe. Germany's having trouble opening up. There's talk now out of South Korea did a study that people could actually, people that once had been affected could get affected again. I also saw that study earlier this week out of China. So, I don't think it's a easy situation. Bill Gates is pretty intent in saying that people can't gather in public until they get his vaccine. Um, Things are bad. Everyone that I see that's, everyone in finance seems to be under the impression that things are absolutely atrocious. Business small and large outside of like Amazon, Walmart, Zoom, they're not they don't have any money and they're losing money. They're not making money. So eventually reality is going to catch up. I would wait for the break, right? Always play it safe. What's happening with our euro? Up 0.7 on the day. Big move here on the euro. Big move on the euro. Now, I also see this pattern developing. Let's draw it in. Right? So I don't have a top side target all the way up here on the euro. That's about another 40 pips higher. Before you run into some big resistance up there. Or rather, I do think that that's going to be a decent place to lean in against the euro. But right now, it's got the momentum. It's got the momentum, and what will that do to the dollar? How's the dollar doing versus the yen? It's mixed. Yep. Yep. But this also, it looks like it's in a channel going up, and I think that it looks like we got a little bit of room to the upside here, definitely, before you could look to lean in right there into this area at 119.62. That looks like the area for me if you're looking to lean in. Right now, euro's got momentum. We're getting ready now for the opening of the U.S. Equity markets. They're trading at the highs of the day, up about 1.5%. Bitcoin is now coming down a little bit, testing into that resistance over here. Bitcoin looks the weakest out of everything, but get above this trend line to the upside. And then I say that's a fake and that it's got a lot of momentum. Gold up 2% on the day, trading at its highs over here. Taking advantage of that dollar weakness today. Do I think it'll touch 1700 today? It depends what happens with the dollar, right? If the dollar really starts to break down, then yeah, easily. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I don't think we're going to see gold up 4%. Right, it's entirely possible. And what we've seen happen in the last few weeks, and just a gentle reminder that's really important. anything could happen at any time in the markets. Anything could happen at any time in the markets, and usually the unthinkable does happen. By the way, what's Tesla up to? 560. You can see here that, I'm just looking at pulling up random stock here, Square. This is Jack Dorsey's other company. It's coming into resistance here. As also, if we go back towards, the equity markets, they're getting close to that resistance. They're getting close to this area of resistance. Well, we're up right into it now at the bottom of it, at least. Towards the bottom of this peak right here. And this whole next area, the next 3% to the upside is all into an area of pretty strong resistance. That's where I thought that the market was going to peak. Let's see if it does or not. And that's a good area to be reminded. Back on that. I want to keep checking over on the DXY, see how she's holding up as she challenges the trend line over here. Hey, Jim. Good to see you. Yeah, it's a 3-day weekend. It's not only a 3-day weekend. It's a 3-day weekend with a lot going on in the world, right? So there's going to be there probably going to be, or there's a really strong chance that there's gaps on Monday in the markets, right? So if you're in a position, especially if you're in a solid position, there's nothing wrong with pushing that and holding that. But be aware, if you have a stop loss in and the market gaps open past it, that stop is not hit. The trade is exited at wherever the gap opens, right? So the risks are a lot greater. And if you're not in a position now, there's no need to get into one ahead of this 3-day weekend. Unless you're looking for a day trade today. Markets definitely seem like they're ready to jump, right? And it could go either direction. That's how the markets kind of feel. They could go either direction and go big, right? And they just have that feel to them right now. We saw that big pronounced break of this resistance here on the euro. If we go down to even like a 5-minute chart, we get a really good look at that move. See, the markets are jumpy. That's 100 pips on the euro. That's a big deal. So see what the dollar does as it makes its stand here. Nice. Speaking of Tesla, that's the 1-hour chart. So this trend line down here did nothing, right? Shouldn't say that. Short of the year. You got some markets, right? 5 minutes since the opening, relatively mute so far. Let's get a look at the headlines, everyone. Makes a lot of sense. Saying markets jumping on news of another Fed support program. When do they start fading it, losing faith in the central banks? It's not happening right now. They're liking that free money. Gold teeing off on that dollar weakness. And Bitcoin. So this is back to Bitcoin. And again, in the next 18 months, we're going to start talking a lot about Bitcoin. But over here, man, let's see if she's able to break out of this. And if she is, we might get a pronounced move to the upside. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. So this is a case then of, if we think about it, this is a case of, yeah, we've had a past, the last couple of sessions have been really great. We're kind of where we are right now today. This is a question of, the Fed instituting another huge program, dollar getting hit by it. Let's see how the dollar reacts, right? Because although on a larger scale, I'm looking at, dollar between 105 and 120, then really the G20 really doing some coordinated action that will hurt the dollar near term. And then eventually the dollar is going to stabilize and recover. Let's see if we get a sign of that this morning or not. Let's see if this trend line breaks and we really push through and make some gains to the downside. Does anyone have any really strong clarity today? I know Thomas did on gold earlier, and that was definitely a good thing to be watching and didn't focus in on. It's even making trading at the highs of the day right now. It's beautiful to watch. It's hard as the dollar for me is breaking down into that area, the trend line, to have any type of clarity. I don't. For me, I don't see it today. Um, Jasper, what's going on? It's going to be interesting to see what the equity markets do going into this long weekend today, whether or not they're content on holding onto these gains. We've known we've been pretty we've been risk on, uber bullish right now for over a week. But it would be interesting to see whether or not they're able to continue that into this long weekend. I want to jump in over here and look at some of the Australian dollar Swiss franc pairs and the Australian dollar Japanese yen pairs. Looks like it's broken above this resistance here. That was strong resistance. All right. This one's another big one up here. The New Zealand dollar having a little bit more problems. Australian dollar Japanese yen up 1% of the day. So coming back into this breakdown area. Wow. Don't forget, the markets can remain irrational longer than traders could remain solvent. The markets can remain irrational longer than traders can remain solvent. Um, Pound Japanese yen. Everything breaking out to the upside over here. Pound Japanese yen at 136.83 becomes very interesting, strong support. Yen weak today. Everything making gains. But the $1 million question, what are the markets going to continue doing, pushing it over here going into 3-day weekend? Right now, dollar under huge pressure, equity markets definitely, and risk definitely on so far. I'm obviously a big believer in that things are going to fall apart and get much worse. And that's a hard conviction to be standing by right now, right? Here we go. John, I saw that for some reason yesterday, John, the live stream didn't shut off after we finished. I saw that you had popped in there later, and was like, "Wow, you guys are still going," but no, that was just some type of error. Pushing now 28.09 is my big area of resistance. Coming into it now, pretty hot and hard. Interesting to say the least. Yeah, era. WTI is a little difficult today because it's really tightly tied to what happens, the resolution of OPEC, and that's kind of like that's not something you can really make a trade on because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether or not at the end of the day they're actually going to come to some type of agreement. Obviously, whether Russia or Saudi, they don't really want oil trading this low. At the same time, they are looking to, they're they have some type of battle going on between them, some type of game theory going on that neither one of them wants to be the one that blinks first. And then you have the, definitely they're looking to tighten the screws into the U.S. shale, which obviously neither one of them are fans of the U.S. So what's going to happen? I don't know. You know, you seem to be in between this resistance over here at 28.55 and the support down here, and you just dead center into this little area of local resistance right now, and it's volatile. Look how this is traded up and down all day. There's no way to take a position before you find out what the resolution is. Gold flying 1683, nice entry at 1652. Nice entry. Definitely nice entry right above that little bit of local resistance. Who did that? Jim. Nice entry, Jim. Beautiful. Bitcoin going, pushing up. Woo! Look at gold flying. Euro US dollar is broken a strong area of resistance this morning. Right, you can see that resistance over there. And oh, let's get a look over here because we have the near-term trend lines we drew in a little bit better. Where is she at? By the way, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Here you can see over here, this is looking at the 1 hour, and off this trend line, just a huge move, which in hindsight, I didn't see it at the time. 50% recovery, boom, was because of this Fed program being launched over here. Just another 2.3 trillion in lending program. You know, nothing going on over here. Lending, implies that it'll be paid back, but obviously these loans are most of them are going to default. And it exploded past this resistance here, and I think that if you're able to trade back up towards the upper end of this trend line over here and into this blue pocket of resistance, that's a place to look to fade this move. But right now, dollars under pressure. The other thing to do is, of course, if this doesn't hold, it's going to be a volatile day. I think it's already been a volatile last hour, and we're coming into a big weekend over here with a lot of potential risk out there. So, obviously, clearly, everyone is really excited about risk at this moment. Well, I'm not. So I'm not gonna take that side of the trade. Yeah, it was a beautiful breakout to take also. I mean, sometimes things just really go in your favor, and the Fed announcing that low lending program that's what that's why price is everything, and price is in everything. But not only that, you had the beautiful entry, came back down, tested it already, and now is off to new highs. I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. Thing about the highs over here is that if we do trade above them, whether that's today, whether it's next week or next month, once we trade above them, the possibility that we trade back up to all-time highs, 1900, that could happen rapidly. And it should under these circumstances. Gold has every reason to be doing what it's doing under these circumstances, right? Trillions and trillions of dollars is just being printed as if it's nothing, because it is nothing. That's a great comment. That's so true. I mean, right? If we talk about volatility in FX, what's going to happen the day that, well, if Brent Johnson's milkshake theory winds up being true. And it's not only him, right? Raul Powell, Kyle Bass, everyone is looking for obviously a really strong dollar. And but what happens if you get to the day when, all of a sudden dollar rips from 120 to 130? Or what happens with the day that the dollar goes from 150 down to basically nothing? Talk about volatility. We're going to see in the FX markets in the years ahead some insane volatility. In crypto markets over the next 18 months, yeah, they're going to pump. Look what's happening with gold right now. Gold is acting as a hard, scarce asset is supposed to act. In 34 days, Bitcoin becomes just barely less scarce than gold. And in 4 years, much more scarce. So let's see. Let's see if these markets hold the gains going into the weekend. Right? It seems that everything is breaking out against the dollar, and the moves are now sustained and long, coming up into this area of resistance. Listen, you get above it, we're talking about the dollar getting below that trend line and it becomes bearish. Get above here, and we could have a sustained big move over here, a few hundred pips to the upside before coming into any resistance. We came down hard and fast over here and hard and fast up over here. There's not much over here. Nothing in the way. There was nothing in the way in the upside. There was nothing way on the downside. And same thing, if you break above this resistance, she could really pop. I hope Anita's still holding this long on gold. If you were, if again, if this is a head and shoulders and the left shoulder is low here, either which way, you still have the structure of the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder. And this is the neckline that traded off of. If you get this, if this is right, and you have basically the target of this puts you back at the high, the 19,000 and change high of 1900 and change high of gold. So that's interesting. Almost a half hour now. Markets seem to be pleased so far with the current trend of things. That's a weaker dollar, strong gold, strong equities. Dollar holding up a fight right now at this trend line resistance. Let's look on the 1 hour. Equity markets have retraced 50% off the lows. 50%. Let's check in on the Canadian dollar, by the way, if it's set to break down. That's going to be dependent on the OPEC outcome today. Not yet. It's definitely nice to see gold so bullish today, though. And when I say that, it's because of the fact that more money being put into that economy, and dollar weakening a little bit right now, gold gaining. It's good to see the market functioning as it should. Nice. Let's peep in first on the euro, Japanese yen. It was actually Thomas who said we were at resistance over there. You can see that happening. Is that the sign of gaining some a move into risk ahead of the weekend? That would also make sense. I hope that happens. What about the big winner of the day, the Australian dollar, uh, Japanese yen? Still looking so good. Into some area though of pretty good resistance though. That's for sure. Risk has been an animal, which is a little bit weird that Bitcoin is the laggard in all of this. On the verge of joining the party, though. Bitcoin is on the verge of joining the party. Let's see if it is rejected here at the resistance or if it breaks out to the upside. 17 million layoffs. So people already the first month had enormous problems paying rent. Well, I think some I heard I saw some enormous number, like 30% of people were not able to pay rent, which means landlords are not also able to pay their mortgages. Um, the amount of damage being done here is pretty severe. You notice all over the place, vaccine program, vaccine program. Imran, the the foreign exchange markets are by far superior to the stock markets. It's not even comparable. As well as there's so many advantages over the foreign exchange markets over the stock market is ridiculous. Um, you know, whether it is the amount of leverage that could be used, the fact that they are open 5 days a week, 24 hours a day. Stocks have this, problem where they don't trade overnight, and you get lots of gaps, and a lot could happen. And um, you also have the fact that the stock market is really, really tiny compared to the foreign exchange market. The amount of liquidity in the foreign exchange market is never, ever, ever an issue. You have the most successful legends of Wall Street traders. They all trade in the foreign exchange, whether it's Paul Tudor Jones, George Soros, Stanley Druckenmiller, the best of the best. They trade in the foreign exchange markets. Is the dollar defending the trend line? Too soon to tell whether or not it's going to be successful. At least I think it's easier to get a look here at the euro as it comes down and retest this broken resistance to see whether or not that does hold or not. There's a lot of trading ahead today in this session. Traders are going to be jockeying for position ahead of this close today. Yeah, gold's trading exactly as it should today. When I say exactly as it should, gold is responding to the weak dollar. It's responding to more money being spent by the Federal Reserve, and it is a hard asset, right? There's only so much of it. So as the monetary base is expanded throughout the world, the fiat currency, gold then needs to be repriced higher. It already retraced. If you look at the breakout over here, this was resistance, this whole area. You could see here it was support. When it broke, it became resistance. And here it broke out, came into this area right here of resistance, and then traded down into the support, and now is successfully resumed upwards and is taking out the local high. Could it retrace back down? Yeah, anything could happen, but it doesn't look like that's what's happening. It looks like it's headed towards testing the high of the year, and then probably breaking through that. Everything here is pretty supportive of gold. Um, you know, at the same time, nothing is a given. We have to see. I mean, eventually we're going to see the markets break down here, right? Let's look on a 8-hour chart. Eventually they're going to break back down, and they're going to come back down, and they're going to test these lows, if not take them out. Mm, I don't know what happens with gold under those circumstances, and Bitcoin. I don't know what happens if we get another sustained waterfall sell off. And that's the risk. That's why it's not easy. That's why you can't just say, "Yeah, you can buy gold here." If you have to walk away for 6 to 12 months, yeah, buy gold, buy Bitcoin, walk away. Yeah, Luis, that's awesome. As a trader, you have to definitely focus in on what works for you, what works for your lifestyle, and where you make money. And if you're making money in stocks, that's awesome. Especially if you were able to make money over the past, 8 years during that sustained, 12-year bull market, but over the last 8 years of it, and then also on the way down, then then that's amazing, man. And not only that, there is, even though the best of the best have made, their billions in foreign exchange, there are plenty, there are plenty who have had amazing careers in trading stocks. So now we're coming up, as we defend the trend line. So, by the way, I have this trend line in, and but maybe it's not the trend line. Good morning. Maybe it's not the trend line. Maybe you could see over here where my mouse is. Let me put it right over there. No, it's the trend line. I thought maybe there was some support over here also. That's not very clear. It could be, you know. Listen, I've showed and why I have that trend line and why I'm following it and why that was my spot. But as we're so far defending it, this is the test. This area, this green line, which I'm gonna move now to resistance, right? That's the test as we come back into that. If that breaks or if that gets rejected. If it gets rejected and we come down and make new lower lows, then we can now easily consider this a fail of the trend line and flip over to definitely that bearish on the dollar. So that makes things a little bit easier. Is now it's hard as you're coming down straight into it, whether or not sometimes you get a clean break, boom. Sometimes 5% of the time you get that clean breakdown, never had a chance. But in this case, as it's initially holding here, and now we're coming back up into this resistance, right? You could see on the left side of the chart, the resistance over here. You could see this, right? This support should be resistance now. As we come into it, break it back above it, we can say, okay, we held, still bullish the dollar. If we're rejected here now and start making lower lows at that point, it's appropriate to get definitely bearish on the dollar. So it's nice to have a plan. Now we got one. Jim, let's check it out. Let's get into the alts. Yeah, Lewis, first of all, good conversation. And I just want to really affirm where your strengths are and where you're doing well, because that's really important. And it's not, this is really not a discussion about, like, it should never be a discussion about, well, what's the best market? Because if you're a trader, you could trade any chart, you could trade any instrument, you can trade any market, right? So if you find something that works for you, then go with it, right? Go with it. Um, so that's awesome. But what's worked for me over these past 20 years, no, well, for the 15 years, is trading on the 8 hour in the foreign exchange. Because the 8 hour, that breaks it down to 3 signal periods a day. And over the last 5 years, I've only traded 2 of those signal periods, So I only trade Asian and New York. So it's only 2 signal periods for me a day. It allows me not to be glued to the charts. It allows me to sleep at night. And, that works for me. If you're a day trader, which I don't really think foreign exchange is unless this volatility we've seen over the past few weeks keeps up, is really ideal for day trading. That's tough in foreign exchange. If you want to day trade, you should stick to the E-mini futures, which is the best market there is for day trading. And you can hang out on the 3-minute chart there, or 5-minute chart there, or maybe the 15-minute, but and do really well. Let's take a look at XRP. XRP Ripple at any moment could really rip. All right, this is great because we don't have anything marked up here on the charts. We could really get into it now. I see right over here where price is right now, it's making that line, and you could see this is where resistance is. So let's draw that in. And what's neat about that is once we clear it to the upside, right? This looks similar to what we were just looking at Bitcoin, where it was coming down then coming back up. If Ripple's able to make a break above this, what happens next? You got more resistance over here. Now Ripple is absolutely, or XRP, excuse me, is absolutely controlled by Ripple, the company who owns the majority of the float. And basically what they do is they are constantly selling their Ripple to retail, right? That's what they do. Now, what they also do though from time to time is they rip it. So Ripple is appropriate, right? Look at these rips to the upside. So they're able to rip this price up anytime they want. Look at this. They could rip this price up almost anytime they want. What does that do? That gets retail buying more, and then they unload their shares. So it's very difficult market to short, because at any time you could face a rip in your face to the upside. And if you're able to trade this, and get in at the right times, you could also get, be involved in these rip your face moves. So Ripple is appropriately named because of the rip in your face moves to the upside, which could happen and do happen frequently at any time. Yeah, I also like to trade the S&P, which it's throughout this crisis I've been active on. Nice. That seems like a great price. That seems like Jim. That seems like a phenomenal price, right? So I imagine as Jim, I imagine as we are 34 days from the bull market or the halving in Bitcoin, which should then bring on the start of the bull market anywhere from 0 to 3 months after that, right? I imagine that Bitcoin by the end of 2020, by December of 2020, will be trading back at the all-time high, right? And I don't think Ripple will be trading back at the all-time high when that happens, right? But I do think right around that point, as Bitcoin takes out the all-time high and 2021 becomes just a bull market in crypto, that you're going to see another alt season. I do believe that. And I believe that alt season, from my research, happens about 3 to 6 months after the Bitcoin halving, because you see the price of Bitcoin all of a sudden start rising and it gets everyone attracted to it. Everyone is seeing it in the media. They're seeing Bitcoin ripping and they're like, I missed Bitcoin. What could I get into? What's cheap? And then Ripple has an amazing marketing arm. And then, you'll see a lot. Why in the end, I think this is worth 0. I think that the possibility for this thing trading, well, I don't know where, but pretty high. I don't know that we make I don't know that we take out the all-time highs in the next bull market on Ripple. It's impossible. It's possible. Anything's possible, but you know, this thing could it trade back to $2? I think so. 12 cents entry. Jim, don't give up that trade. Don't give up that trade. It's interesting. I like talking about things like that. And I mean, I don't see why they have any reason to do that. They're just, so I don't think the Fed is going to come out with the digital dollar until they follow everyone else. The Chinese will come out with the digital yuan probably first, right? I think the IMF, if you Google central bank digital currency, CBDC, they have released papers over the last 3 years about the digital currency that they plan on issuing, which is supposed to be like the digital currency for all central banks. My base case is that when the Fed loses control finally and the system collapses, it's the IMF who's going to step in with their central bank digital currency backed by the special drawing rights, which is a basket of currencies, including gold. And then they're going to say, all right, this is how we save the system. And the Federal Reserve of New York, I think, is going to be the Lehman, which is going to be sacrificed. That's just pure. That's just pure speculation, or of how I've put the pieces together. Here we come down now. The dollar, taking a look again at those lows. Again, we take out these lows here. Let's set an alert for when it happens. At that point, have to become bearish on the dollar until this resistance on the upside is then taken out. Gold's still maintaining its highs on the day. I like this line on Bitcoin over here on the upside, because why I have a very small position on. I have a third of a position on here. I took profits, I think, around 72. I'm looking to add at 67.50, right? Because as long as we're above 65, this is very bullish. But if we break this trend line to the upside, I will look to play the breakout to the upside. I know that Blair noticed that the yen was gaining strength. I'm just going to look at it's even stronger now. Looking here at the yen dollar as the proxy. And, I think taking risk off into the weekend makes plenty of sense for me. Australian dollar, Japanese yen. So I have to be honest, going back a few weeks ago, if you could, this is what I was waiting for, price to get up into this, 67.44 level. It's trading 90 pips higher now, 100 pips higher into this resistance. Looks attractive. Oh, please do, Jim. Jim, please forward that to me. So I'm expecting a day like today that the Swiss franc, dollar's weak, right? I mean, Swiss franc is not really having its way. It's down, a little less than 0.5%. Pretty decent move. Um, I think this is more of a dollar story here than a Swiss franc story. Looks like this trend line and this support area kind of meet, get below this, and that would mean the dollar also broke down. Then we could see a sustained move over here. But right now, the DXY is fighting for its life, and this is also at support. So you could see that everything is matching up. Dollar at a really important trend line, trying to hold support. Same thing here on the US dollar, Swiss franc. So, Luis, are you talking about 2008 stimulus, which set off the 12-year bull market, or are you talking about the Fed's action, back here late in March, which set off the rise in the equity markets? Because there is a big difference between the crisis in 2008 and the one today, right? The financial crisis in 2008 do not have people out of work. We've never had anything close to the job losses that we've had in such a short time, right? So in 2008, we had a broken financial system that money was able to go ahead and fix in the short term. We all knew it was going to be worse in the long run because of it, but that definitely was able to help it. But here you don't have people working. So could money fix that? Yeah, 2008. That's what I thought you were talking about. I just wanted to confirm first. There is a big difference between 2008 and today, right? And that is because of the situation of the virus having the economy on lockdown, on people on lockdown, the loss of jobs. $1,200 stimulus check is not going to help anyone even get by 1 month. But they're talking now, another right now they're talking about another 4 to 8 weeks before they could hope to start resuming any type of normalcy. And no one knows how they could do it yet. No one has figured it out. China opened up Wuhan yesterday. Now you have all those people moving about. Let's see if they get a second wave over there. China's a different situation than the rest of the country. They were locking people in buildings. You can't do that in the West. Germany, German engineers, they're having a difficult time figuring out how they're going to restart the economy and when. And then ultimately, what's going to happen probably is, even if we get a small little bit of reprieve over the summer, by the fall, this thing's going to pick up again. It has to, because Bill Gates wants you to get that vaccine. He wants you to get that vaccine. And it's going to pick up again. And this is going to have severe, dire consequences. This thing will be over. This thing will be over when they have instituted two things. The first thing will be the vaccines. The second thing will be UBI, universal basis income. There is no more work, right? Well, there'd be very, 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 the majority of the population will be on UBI, and that means that they are under complete control. That's the picture I think we're looking at. Yeah, the UK is under a similar situation as everyone else, right? They have, an enormous amount of infections, 60,000 plus. Uh, this is a global situation with the possibility. Let's see what happens over in China. China's months ahead of everyone else, and whether or not, as they open up Wuhan right now, whether or not this is spread. Yeah, there's a lot of hope in the world, though, too. At the same time, that's the thing about evil. Good wins in the end, and however strong it is, the good is stronger. So I think it's really important also, by the way, to be able to talk about current events, to talk about the situation we're in, and to not get really mm, tainted by it or depressed by it is really important. It's really always important to have faith and to have hope and to understand who is in charge, who is in charge, right? And who triumphs. And you want to be aware of the situation we are all in. At the same time, you always want to be full of hope. Where are we? So it's about 10:30 Eastern time right now. Equity markets have been open 1 hour. They remain very, very, very bullish. We're going into a 3-day weekend. Dollar under pressure, rightfully so. There's going to come a time when whatever's thrown at the dollar ultimately is able to recoup. Let's see whether or not that's today. Gold acting very well. Gold now even just coming back right now and testing this area of the breakout. Looks very, very bullish, acting as gold is intended to do. I mean, it is Friday ahead of Thursday ahead of this 3-day weekend. It's going to be a long weekend. Uh, it's impossible to say where we close today and where we open up on Monday. You have to be careful out there. Lewis, the most important thing. So let's touch off of both those. Most importantly, to be a free thinker. If you're watching the news, if you're watching the media, you have no hope of being a free thinker, Luis, because the media, the programming is exactly that. It's programming. You know, Jeff Berwick, Dollar Vigilante, calls it TV programming. You get the program and the TV guide. It's look up, if you feel like going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, look up Operation Mockingbird, right? Um, and I've told my mom over these past few weeks. I've told my wife, stop watching the news. You need to be aware of the situation. By aware of the situation, you need to know what we're facing, how to protect your family, how to protect yourself, what type of moves to make for your investments. But don't watch the news. Don't be following any mainstream media, because you're not getting news. You're getting a narrative, and it's meant to cause fear, and it's meant to depress you. Was it the Euro US dollar? Let's check it out. Oh yeah, look at that. Let's look at that on a 15-minute here, because we could see that so far we've came in and tested this broken resistance. So far it's holding us support. Let's go ahead and just change that, since we're looking at this intercession over here. Even though it is not on the daily, has not broken that yet or confirmed the breakout. So this could go either way, right? This makes it a little bit helpful. Start resuming above the highs, or take out the lows over here. Let's check it out. Is there any let's check the news first, if there's any news on crude. Oh, okay. So here you go. The video, it's a video conference too, huh? Oh, between all of them, they can't meet in person because of the coronavirus. I'm just going to share the link if anyone's interested in reading up on what is going on with oil right now, and then we'll check out the price together right here. Wow, up at 7% of the day, back towards the resistance area over here. That is flying. Ooh. Could go any way right now, trading up and down the resistance ahead of the news. At the end of the day, the big question is if OPEC even matters. Huge oil moves have been sparked by 2% over and under supply over time. We're at 10% oversupplied, even with the biggest OPEC cuts that are on the table. This is all, in the long run, still negative for crude. The question is, do you lean over here in the resistance? If we break above, right, do you get a better entry up higher? Long term, we're going down further, just like the indices. I believe we come down, test, and break these lows. Oh, what was the reaction so far of crude up 7%? Got a weak dollar today, and Canadian dollar, to be honest, is having a little bit of trouble. Very, especially over the last 15 minutes, it's been really volatile. I think this is really dependent on oil, right? Oil breaks that resistance. This could move down. Again, long term, this is an opportunity to build into a dollar position. Now, the question is if we fall down, how much room is to the downside? There's significant room to the downside. Gold back up, testing the highs of the day. Yeah, that's a good question, Luis. And if anyone has any thoughts they could add to that, that would be awesome. But that is definitely step one. Get rid of stop following the news. Luis, to be honest, yeah. So prayer and meditation, number one, right? That's solid advice. For me, it's a pursuit of the truth as well. If the news you're being fed to you is a fake narrative and it's being done for a reason, you have to question why, right? And once you begin that pursuit of truth, it opens up lots of different pursuits and rabbit holes, and I wouldn't even know where to begin, honestly, because it's been quite a while. Tabs, when you say what about the UK? What do you mean by that? Are you talking about the United Kingdom in general, or are you talking about what's going on with the British pound? Yeah. So, um, huh, what's going on over the UK? Long term, things are looking pretty good for the UK. When I say long term, I don't even know what time horizon to put on that. Let's call it 3 or 4 years. They're getting out of the EU. Things are looking great for the UK. Um, but in the near term, we're looking at a prolonged global uh, greater recession or depression, and things are not looking good anywhere at all. And overall, though, I think that an amazing move getting out of the EU. EU is going to see some tough times ahead in the next few years, and as well as the UK definitely has some deficit problems. Everyone across the board looks pretty bad. I think in the long run, probably Russia looks pretty great off the dollar, off that dollar crack. A lot of gold, lots of resources. I think Russia looks pretty good in the long run. Uh, Putin has really turned that country around and really done a lot of good for it. The US, I've never bet against the US. I would never bet against the US. You know, um, China's playing the long game. The UK is, if you're talking about, listen, it was a great move for them to get out of the EU. That's going to benefit them in the long run. In the near term, over the next 12 months, there's going to be a lot of volatility. And, you know, as far as the bigger picture, which is that it still is a very global economy. We're headed at the very least towards a big and severe, I think, recession. Yes, in 2008, the stimulus from the central banks was enough to go ahead and set off a bull market. We all said back then, next time around, the problem would be the loss of faith and trust in the central banking system. What's the timing on that? That remains to be seen. At the same time, I say don't underestimate the US. I don't underestimate those diabolical people and how long they could keep the music and game building on the house of cards, and how I think it could go on a lot longer than anyone thinks. At the same time, it's very fragile, and people are losing trust in the central banks. I lost trust in the central banks back in 2008. Most people today are now losing trust in the central banks, right? And things like this, they're first happen gradually and then suddenly. The XY is going nowhere. It's just putting in that little bit of a stance, trying to hold support. Tomorrow, we're not going to obviously be online over here together. So ahead of time right now, I want to wish you all a really, really, really holy weekend as we enter now into the pinnacle of Holy Week. And, you know, Saturday is a great day of joy. Saturday is a great day of joy. Let that really, really overcome you. Jim was talking about meditation, over the next few days, take 15 minutes, take 5 minutes and be still. Be still and know that I am God. God only talks in the stillness. You need to quiet yourself. The news, constant distraction. Everything's falling apart. It's another crisis. Everything's, even when there's not a crisis, the alert, everything's terrible, right? How could you know God? Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Also, Passover began. Passover. Yeah, Passover began yesterday. Here we go. Euro taking another shot. Dollar looks like it's going. At the end of the day, though, seen some big moves on the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Again, they were the ones that suffered the most to the downside, making their biggest gains. Are they now getting ripe again to attack? How much longer is this recovery going to last? That's beautiful. What do you want to look at? Wilfred, what's going on, buddy? New Zealand dollar, Japanese yen. Yeah, we're seeing some big gains here, you know, coming into an area of strong resistance and really strong resistance in this up in here, right? But we have not seen we've not seen that risk enter the market yet. At the end of the day, so the timing is everything, and I'm sorry that that's everything when it comes to trading and investing, right? Uh, we talked about, I said on the YouTube channel yesterday, whether or not we're going to have a V-shaped recovery or not. Right now, a lot of people are buying into that V-shaped recovery. I'm definitely not. Is it time to lean in over here? Listen, anytime you're in a downtrend still, as an uptrend started, maybe, right? But every time you get your resistance and or support, you have an actionable signal to look at, and then you have good risk reward. Doing it all day, waiting for the testing to the resistance. Are we testing into resistance right now? Yeah. I have this up here at the top of the gap over here, but there's one also exactly right where price is right now, right? So this area is resistance. Since it's unclear, trade smaller size, there's big movement, right? You wait for the rejection as the first opportunity to get in. So as you're into resistance, which you are right now, you gotta be looking to sell because you know where you're wrong. Oh, also interesting just on the daily here on Bitcoin, as we made a lower low. If it comes up here now and takes out the to the upside, like over here, you made a higher high and then came out down to the downside, right? That little trap sometimes really gets people caught up on the wrong side, which is why I'm not normally a breakout type trader. I set the alert up here. The high of the day, I guess, is a little higher at 74. I leaning towards taking a breakout if it does happen. The high of yesterday is 74.34. Then we have this trend line breakout over here, a little bit lower, 73.75. Beautiful. Thanks for asking, Wilford. I am just during these past weeks in awe of my wife, who has been a superhero, phenomenal with the amount of activities, projects, and schooling she's done with these kids. Here we come down here, about to take out the low of the session on the dollar. And I'm just so thrilled about that. The XY hits the lows of the day, breaking down. It looks like the dollar now I'm flipping to near term bearish. Let's check out the daily over here. Bearish tint now over here. I'm expecting next move down to the support. Closest support is at 98.85, but I would say, probably the odds are that we come down further towards 98.30. That's going to be an interesting level, an important level to see if we hold. Now, if we get back above this resistance over here to the upside at any point, I will then say, okay, this was a false break, and now we could get bullish again. Gold at the highs of the day. Beautiful. Look at that. Gold pumping as the dollar was breaking down right there. So if I haven't said it today, first of all, I appreciate all of you spending your time hanging out with me, navigating these markets together. Again, tomorrow we will not be live streaming. Good Friday tomorrow. Good Friday. There's a lot to be hopeful about. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. DXY taking a look now at that broken trend line support, seeing if it holds as resistance. Oh boy. Jim, Pabs, Wilford, thank you, Marti, everyone. Absolutely. Amen. Oh, you didn't really miss too much at all, Mara. Happy happy Easter to you as well. Blessings upon you and your family. Thank you so much. That's right. Listen to your heart, not your mind. right? It's putting up such a fight over here. Um, Anything could happen. Trying to extend the line over here. Let's see. Yeah, at this point for me, I need some, I have this alert set in at the resistance 99.78. Get back above there. I'm happy to lean in bullish towards the dollar. But right now, this looks pretty. It looks like we're flipping to bearish near term on the dollar. It looks like we could get a retest down here of 98.85 area. You know, 98.90, and then down also at 98.30. Those are the areas that we need to watch right now. Let's also watch what happens today with the resolution of the OPEC meeting. Oil moving higher could put a little bit more pressure down on the dollar. If that winds up being the top and oil starts heading down, that's going to help firm up the dollar as well. Okay, here we go. We got, see, this is, that looked like the minimum 10 million barrels per day. That's not really going to do anything. I would say, although we could have some short-term moves, long term, that's not really going to help oil. Let's see how prices react. It's already being sold. See that? It's already being sold. So yeah, maybe the dollar does firm up here. Yeah, go ahead and check out Forex Live. This is my this is where I get most of my news. It's a really good RSS feed. They have some headlines you'll see there on OPEC. They cut 10 million barrels. It looks like, right? Details are not announced for how long, but oil selling off on that news initially. It's kind of a little bit easy to trade it in the fact that you got to clear 99 to have you know any type of upside possible movement. Right now, it looks like it's selling off. Take out the support down here. Take out the support down here at 23.50, and I think we come back down, test, and take out the lows. So, all right, everyone. I actually am going to call it a day only because I do have an appointment, and I just really want to wish you all a beautiful weekend. A beautiful weekend to you and your families, to everyone. Thank you for everything that you give. Thank you for everything that you bring and everything you share. Thank you for each and every one of you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you soon. God bless everybody. May God bless you.